Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is the last day of August, so I am here to just do an August recap of all the stuff I read in the month, and also talk a little bit about what I might be reading in the next month. So this is an August wrap-up, September TBR video. Yes. So for those of you that have watched my BookTubeAthon videos, fear not, I'm not going to be recapping everything that I read for the BookTubeAthon. I'm just going to link the final video of the week down below where I sort of recap everything that I read in the week. But I did read enough other things that I decided it was enough for its own video. The first things I read after the BookTubeAthon were the 100 Day 21 and the 100 Homecoming, to carry on from the fact that I'd read the first book during the BookTubeAthon. I really did want to finish the series because I wanted to know what the differences were between the book series and the TV series. I did not really like the book series. I just finished Homecoming right before turning on the camera. It was just not good. It was kind of boring. None of the characters were really that well drawn or that complex or that interesting even. There were things like people getting shot, people getting stabbed with spears, and my whole emotional investment was so little that I was just kind of like, alright. If they recover, that's nice. If they don't, so that's not a great place to be when you're reading a series. I would say its biggest flaw is that it just didn't really have compelling characters. The plots would have probably been fine if they had managed to have any kind of investment in the characters at all. But I don't really want to spend too much time talking about the 100 since I feel like I've already covered that in a few different videos, so I'm just gonna move on. So the next book that I read in August was Nearly Gone by El Cosimano, I think is how that's pronounced. It's a murder mystery thriller, and it's got a bit of a supernatural / magical realism kind of touch to it, which is something that I've actually noticed before. I read another one recently that was called When, where it was basically a straight thriller, except that the main character had this ability where when she looks at people, she sees the date of their death, like above their head. So in this one, the main character is a touch empath, so when she touches people skin to skin, she can feel their emotions. Her name is Nearly, since she doesn't hugely like that as a name, since it's not considered a real name and she gets made fun of for it. She usually goes by Lee. I would say that in a lot of ways it's a fairly standard thriller. I would say that what I liked about it was the depiction of many people in the cast who are very low class, including Nearly herself. Her mom is an exotic dancer and they live in a trailer. I am coming at this book from a position of someone who has never had to really live in poverty. I had a very comfortable middle-class upbringing, so I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about, but it felt like a very realistic portrayal of people in lower classes, in that it was a depiction of how hard that life can be without demonizing them. It seemed to be focused heavily on the way that it can be tempting when you have so little to try to take the easy way out, and the way that that can get you into trouble. For example, one of the main characters was caught up in the drug trade, and so he was caught dealing and is now having to work as a criminal informant to stay out of jail. You can see the way that he regrets what he did and the way that he was caught up in this feeling of helplessness and not knowing how to get out, and his choices, while they're not approved of in the book, are also not demonized. So that was the thing that I would say really impressed me about the series, was the way that it handled people in very unfortunate circumstances with a lot of compassion. And also the relationship between Nearly and Mona was surprisingly strong. For all that, you know, her mother holds a job that is not normally considered respectable, and they don't make a lot of money, and they have a pretty poor living situation, and Nearly's father, Mona's husband, took off and abandoned them. For all of those things, they still have a fairly close, caring relationship with each other, and Mona's love for her daughter really shows through in the way that she's doing the best that she can to make sure that her daughter has the best shot in life. So it is a series. The second book is out, but I haven't bought it yet just because it's in hardcover and I'm not sure if I'm gonna buy it in hardcover or wait for paperback. But either way, I did like the book, and I thought that it was fresh enough to be worth checking out, even though thrillers and murder mystery thrillers are not always what I automatically go for. So the last book on the list is one that I'm very excited about. I finally have caught up on the Raven cycle, which means that I finished Blue Lily Lily Blue. I had kind of put off reading this book. I was very resistant to it because I read books 1 and 2 back to back in spring. I don't remember exactly when, probably March or April-ish. And then I got book 3, but I just didn't get into it right away, and I wasn't totally sure why I was so resistant to the idea of reading it. And I think part of it was that oftentimes the book that is right before the end is sometimes not the strongest book in the series. You get this in like the middle book in trilogies, and in long series often the one right before the final book is mostly just set up for the final book, so it ends up not really resolving anything, and because you're so far into the series they don't really introduce anything new either. And then also I was hesitant because the fourth book isn't out yet, and I'm not even totally sure that we have an official release date right now. I think people are saying March of 2016, but I'm not sure that that's accurate. So I was kind of putting off reading book 3, but I finished it last night and oh my god, the series is so good. I'm probably gonna do a full video review of the entire Raven Cycle books because I just don't think I have the time to talk about how amazing these books are. But the care that she takes with all of her characters is just astounding. The way that, you know, we have Adam's misplaced pride and how it's so frustrating for everyone around him but completely understandable, and the way that you have Gansey's privilege that sometimes blinds him and sometimes leads him to offend his friends, but he has this deep, deep-seated love for his friends. And Ronan's grief and anger and frustration, and then the way that you have Blue, who is sort of disassociated from a lot of her peers, but she doesn't really hate them, she just doesn't really feel connected to them, and then she meets these boys that she should hate, but she ends up connecting to them so much more strongly than she ever thought she would, and she feels welcomed into their circle in a way that she didn't expect. And sometimes I'm reading these books and there will be a sentence or a paragraph and it'll just be some sort of description and it'll just catch my breath away. It's amazing. I love this series so much, and I'm gonna probably talk about it more later in another video. But I'm very happy that I finished this book. I'm really looking forward to book 4 whenever that comes out, and obviously I will keep you guys appraised whenever I read book 4. So that was pretty much everything that I read in the month of August, other than the 7 books I read for the BookTubeAthon, which again, I will link that video down below. So really quickly, I wanted to just talk about what I am probably going to be reading in September. So I picked up a couple books recently at Barnes & Noble that I'm gonna take a crack at. The first is The Accident Season by Moira Fowley Doyle. And it's about this family where every year in October they all suddenly become very accident prone. It's got sort of a magical realism to it. And these can be minor things like, you know, getting a splinter, or they can be major things like falling down the stairs and getting a concussion. And it seems like also the main character's father died in October when she was a little kid. So I'm not totally sure what like the driving plot of the story is gonna be yet, but the premise interested me enough, and I do actually like magical realism when done well. And it seems like it's gonna be involving secrets of her family and things like that. And I just barely started it. I'm like a chapter in. And I liked the writing style and I liked the dynamics that she was setting up. So I'm gonna try to read The Accident Season soon. The next one I feel like requires a tiny bit of explanation. I bought this at the same time as The Accident Season. The thing is that my best friend and I, the one that I run a podcast with, are both really into Les Mis. And so when I saw this book, I realized that 1, I had to buy it, and 2, we both had to read it because it is A Little in Love and it claims to be Eponine's story from Les Mis. I have no idea what this is gonna be like. I don't have high hopes for it being very good, but I'm gonna do it anyway, and if it is good, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. Other than that, there are a couple books that are gonna be released in September that I am gonna be picking up, but I will save those for another video. So until next time, I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!